Hello and g'day. Welcome to part 3. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to go about choosing the pages for the Recycle a Book cover for a junk journal that I showed you how to make in part 2. This video will teach you how to make the pages, all about the pages, which are known as signatures. I will explain what pages to collect and what to put in the junk journal. And just a quick note here to let you know I've made a video that explains what a signature is. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look because it will help you a lot. This video will help you with choosing your colours and what type of papers to use, and just as important, how to get the right size. I also talk about should you get stuck on a theme or not to theme. Before we get started, Anderson's Bookbindery has given me this bookbinder's kit, which includes this piece of book cloth here, as a thank you for tuning in every week. Anderson's Bookbindery is an Australian bookbinding supplies and book restoration business. All you must do to enter is be a public subby, like the video, and comment. You need to do some homework for the comment to be correct. What you have to comment is the answer to this question. What's your favourite bookbinding cloth listed on the Bookbinding Australia's website? I'll put the link in the description box, so all you have to do is click on it, have a look at the book cloths, and then just get back to me here and tell me in a comment which bookbinding cloth you liked. The giveaway will go for 2 weeks, starting today, the 25th of July, and it'll go through to the 8th of August, 8 p.m. Sydney time, Australia. So good luck everybody. I'll be chatting to each and every one of you in the comments. I showed you how to get the cover to this stage in video part 1 and 2. Now I'll get back to this in a minute. This is what you need to know if you're using the everyday copy paper. I'm mostly going to be talking about A4 because in Australia we use A4. If you use letter size paper or fool's cap size paper, all I want you to do is translate it to that. So if I'm talking A4, you just look at this as your letter size paper. This is a tea-dyed piece of paper, so I get to use the whole lot. This is an A4 tea-dyed sheet of paper folded in half, and we call that an A5. This is an A4 sheet of paper, digitally printed, borderless. My print has gone all the way to the edge of the paper on all 4 sizes. If I was to fold this in half, it would also give me this result, an A5 folded sheet of paper. This is an A4 sheet of paper with a border. This is the one most of you will relate to, either A4 or letter size. You end up, if you use a digital print, you end up with a border around the edge. Not to be confused with the tea-dyed, which has no border, or for that matter, a piece of scrapbook paper. What happens when you've got the border? When your borderless sheet of paper is folded in half, you get the full width of the paper, which becomes the height of your page. The height being the top and the bottom. That's the width from the fold line to the edge. This piece here, now the height and the bottom is shorter because we've got to take the white areas off. You lose that. So it is not using the full width of the paper. This piece here was printed with the border. So if I place that on there, you'll see the border's been cut off and it is that much shorter than the borderless print. So there is a bit of difference if you print border or borderless. So that's my borderless height, and that's my border height. Now they're pages, right? Here's my book cover. My book cover is 8 3/4 inches high by 5.5 inches wide. I've got one signature here to show you. This is the signature cover, and this is the signature pages. This sheet here is a tea-dyed piece of paper, so therefore it's borderless. Any pages can go inside here that are smaller. If they are bigger, they need to be trimmed off. And here's an example. You can start off with papers that are bigger, any size at all that are bigger, and then we trim them back to fit inside this cover. And then that cover needs to fit inside the main book cover. But if you're only using copy paper, this is the formula that you need to look at. So when you pick your book to take all the text block out, like we did in video 1, you need to take into consideration what size paper you've got at home and whether you're printing with a border or borderless, or whether you're going to use your tea-dyed paper, which you can use the whole height. This is the book cover, this is the signature cover, and this is the signature. A signature is a group of pages put together. You can have one signature or 3 signatures, and I'm only using 3 in this example. You can have way more. What I've done here is I've got a straight line across the bottom. The pages are shorter than the signature cover, is shorter than the book cover. The pages which form the signature cover, all it is a decorative piece of light cardstock, and the pages go inside that. So it's got to be either the same size as your pages or a fraction bigger. It's got to be smaller than the book cover, so that when it goes inside the book cover, you can't see it. It's just sitting in here like that. So it's got a little bit of space between the top, the side, and the bottom. So now I'll explain how I've used a signature cover to give me a little bit more height of my pages so that I haven't got such a wide border at the top and the bottom. If you don't want such a big gap, the way to fix that is to make a signature cover. By the way, you do not have to put a signature cover on your pages. If you don't have any pretty scrapbook paper, you don't have to worry about that. You can leave that bit out and just use your group of papers. So I want less of a gap at the top and the bottom. For me to be able to make that gap less, I'll put a false cover on, which is the signature cover. So I'll put my pages in the signature cover, which is ever so slightly bigger than my pages, because I want it to fill the space here in the main cover. So if I turn that around like that, you'll see now I've got about 1/8 of an inch at the top that you can see the main book cover, and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom that you can see the main book cover peeking out from behind the signature cover. If you're not got that and you're just putting that in there, we'll look at it again this way. Now I've got 1/4 of an inch at the top showing the book cover, 1/4 inch showing the bottom of the book cover. That is not wrong. You can do that. It is fine. So that's just explaining how the pages go in and how much gap you have at the top and the bottom, and why you would use the signature cover. The signature cover is purely for decoration, to separate all the signatures, and it's also great if you want to give the illusion that your pages are bigger when you look at your book. So that just looks better having a bigger signature in the book. So I'll head off now and I'll show you how I selected the papers for each signature. I'm going to put 3 signatures in this book cover. Now I'm going to put this to you. To theme or not to theme? A lot of ladies ask, what theme should I do? Do you work to a theme? Should I work to a theme? Do you know what? I started this book and I never had a theme in mind. I still don't have a theme in mind. See this here? I put this here, still not having a theme in mind. I want you to look at this with a colour in mind. You've picked your cover, right? You know what size you want to do. We've talked about pages. We know what size paper that you need to put in this book. Now we're talking about colour. We're not talking about a theme. If you want to work with a theme, you want to choose roses, by all means, go and pick out all the papers you've got with roses on it, with cats on it, with boots on them, keys, anything you like. But today I'm going to talk neutral. We're just going to talk colour. This piece of fabric inside this spine, believe it or not, it was quite difficult to match a colour to this particular piece of fabric. This fabric has got a Paris theme on it. So if I was to pick this, it's got a music theme on it. Would you put the two together? I certainly would. I couldn't care less that one is music and one is Paris. It's a junk journal. To me, I match the colours and I work with what I've got. If this is all I've got, this is what I'll work with. By the way, this is not what I end up with. I'm just giving you an example. What I've looked at here is these colours seem to work. They're not identical, but they seem to work with what I could find. But this will give you a bit of an idea on how you pick your colours. You pick something that's close enough, doesn't have to match, it doesn't have to be the Paris theme, it doesn't have to be full of butterflies. Just pick something out. You can move that one away and put this one with it and have a look and see if it's what you want. Move that one away and have a look at it, and look how it drastically changes as you move one piece of paper away and look at it with another. What you need to do is you need to move a whole heap of clutter away and just look at one thing at a time, or a couple. Move everything away until you've found what it is that you like. You might go, oh well, I can put this piece in here, and go, definitely not. That is just so washed out, it doesn't work. But it might work for you. And this is what it's all about. You choose what works for you. That's one way of choosing your colours. So now I'll show you what I've picked and what I'm going to go with. I picked about 5 different colours, maybe 6, of these scrapbook sheets. They made my short list. Okay, I'm making 3 signatures in this book. Now I narrowed it down to 3 today. I'm going to use this one, and this one. Now what you've also got to look at is what's on the other side. What colours are they going to work with it as well? So you have a look Yep. And yep. So I did that before I bought them here to show you. There is no theme here, so it's entirely up to you whether you theme or not. The objective of this lesson today is to teach you how to put a book together and be confident with choosing colours. Worry about the theme a little later when you get used to doing and making up your own journal. If you're confident with themes, choose your theme as well as your colour. You've got enough to think about right now without having to try and work out too many things. So now I've showed you how to select your signature covers. We'll talk a bit more about the pages. To select the pages to go inside the signature cover, you can use whatever you like. I showed you some signatures earlier on, which were tea-dyed paper, folded in half. You can use a stencil and distress ink your papers to put a design on them. I'm not going to show you pockets and tucks and all them things now. We're just making the bare bones of this junk journal. I'd love to see you be able to make a junk journal that you can put all those things in. So tea-dyed paper is probably the go-to paper that we all use for our junk journals. Printables. We love our digi-prints. This is a grid paper out of a notepad. All I've done is tea-dyed it. This is another old, really old school type notepad, or actually a book, and I've just ripped it out. Now I'll leave these rough edges on and I'll use them as a feature for my page. So this is just another example of a digital printable. This is an envelope that we will put in one of these signatures. So it's just a big old envelope, and we will turn that into a page, and more than likely it'll be a pocket. So a page pocket. Now here we've got recipe pages, and I've tea-dyed that quite lightly just to give it an aged look. These are just pages out of an exercise book. I've just pulled the staples out of the centre and tea-dyed that lightly as well. They make great pages. I've got the Edith Holden book here. This is the one I pulled apart in part 1. I am going to make this book up, so I will show it to you, and I will show you how I've made the pages bigger than what I'm demonstrating today for this smaller cover. I'll show you how I've made the pages bigger, but it won't be in this series. So here's another thinner envelope. So that just fits inside there. So just check things that you want to use. Just check if it'll fit inside your cover. And if it does, just put it aside in your pile. You can use a paper bag. Check it to see if it's going to fit inside your cover. And tea-dye that. You can leave it plain if you don't want to tea-dye it. You can get your rubber stamp out and stamp all over it. You can collage it. You can do whatever you like to your paper bag. You can use a page out of a book and you can collage that with a napkin, and that looks pretty good folded over and used as a little shorter page. And again, you can use the vellum and the tea-dyed paper, and you'll see that one in the book. So that's some of the pretty basic ideas of how you can choose your pages. None of them are fancy. They're all just pretty straightforward and basic that you can gather up yourself. Like I said, there's no pockets or anything like that in it. The only pockets you'll see throughout this lesson are maybe the envelopes. They might have a little bit of a pocket in that. And maybe this one, I might turn this one into a bit of a tuck spot so I don't have to cut so much off it. We'll check that out when we get to it. To work out the size of your signature, you've got your cover. You need to work out how tall you want from the top to the bottom of the signature. So you would measure your cover, which is 8 3/4, and if you want 1/8 of an inch of the cover showing at the top and 1/8 of an inch showing at the bottom, you would take 1/4 of an inch off your 8 3/4. So you would then make the height of your signature 8 1/2 high. So I'm just going to make my signature the same height as I've done these, just to keep it going. But that's what you would do if you were measuring it off your book yourself. The same with the width. You would work out how wide it needs to be from the inside of the spine to the edge of the cover, and then come back 1/8 of an inch. If it's 5 1/2 inches wide, you come back 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to use my signature that I've already made to cut out my piece. So if you've got a pattern on here like this, you just got to work out whether you want all of that pattern or you want part of it. I think I'll keep it all. So I'll measure it back from here. Just have a little think about everything before you go and start chopping things off. So you want 3 of them if you're making 3 signatures. Depends on the width of your spine as to how many signatures you put in there. You can go and check out my What is a Signature video to work out how many signatures you need to put in your book. Because I'm using cardstock, I'm just going to score my fold line. You can just fold it over if you like. If your scoreboard isn't going to fall in the right area for you to score, just shimmy it over a little bit until you hit that line and then follow it down. And fold that over and get yourself a nice crease. So now we've got our 3 signature covers all ready to go. I've got the pages ready for 1. Now I'm using 7 pages in each signature. You can use 5, 3, 10. So I've got 7 in that one. And I'll just set that one aside. Now I'm going to open this page up. This being the Edith Holden page, it was quite old, and when I pulled the page out, it was a little bit damaged on the fold line. So I've got a piece of washi tape that matched it, and I'll put one on one side and one on the other. I just need to work out where that's going to go, and it's going to be my outside first piece of paper for my signature. You can work out your signatures to be used for writing on or just for a junk journal like this, just to have something pretty to remember. This one here has got a lot more writing pages on it. There are guidelines but no rules. The first thing I'm going to do with a page like this is I'm going to work out my height. I'm going to work out how much of this page I'm willing to lose to make it smaller. So I'm going to firstly put it on the fold line. I'm going to have a little look and say, okay, at the front and the back, I'm going to lose to about there. And if I do that, where's that going to take it? I don't have to lose that much actually. So I can tell that I'm going to bring it back a little bit at a time. I'm going to use my square ruler and I'm going to put my square line across the top of the page there, and I'm going to come down. I'm going to make my page a little bit longer than it needs to be, and I'm just going to cut the bottom off. Now I'm going to sit that on the fold line here and on the bottom. I don't mind that it's exactly the same height as my signature cover. Looked in there, I haven't lost too much at all. Now if I look in here, I can see that I'll just make it over the top of the February and I might get that number 18 in. So I'm just going to mark that there to be the top cut line. Again, I'm going to square that there. I'd rather it be too big and have to trim it back than cut it too short and lose some of this fabulous writings on the book. So I've kept the word February and that number there, and I lost a tiny little bit of the number 4 there, and I can live with that. I lost a little bit of the number 19 there, and I can live with that as well. So I haven't lost too much of this page on the top and the bottom. A fraction inside of the signature. It's not identical, it's a fraction. Now instead of me cutting that off, like if I put a pencil line there and there, I would normally cut that off. I could do that. But because it's Edith Holden, and if I'd done that, I would only lose that much and I'd have a bit of the duck showing. But I'm not going to fold that just yet until I get the rest of my pages inside. But when I come to it, I might cut that piece off and have it just plain and short. I'm not going to know until I do it. So you don't have to rush into things. Take your time and wait and see if that's what you want to do. Sometimes you don't have to jump in and then go, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Now I can take that away and put it aside so that I can measure the rest of the pages to the signature cover. Right, so once you put these in order, don't change them around, because see how they creep out? That will have an impact on your pages if you put them in order and then change them. So we've got page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So I'm going to get my vellum paper and I'm just going to fold that in half and give it a crease. Now that can go anywhere at all. It can go to the middle. It can go between them two. I'll see what it looks like with the music. No. I think it might look all right there. I think so. Yep. I like it there. So you just place it, move it around and place it to where you want it. So now I've got my group of papers together. They're all too big for my cover. I'll center a few pieces up so that I do, when I cut the top and the bottom of that, it's in the middle. So you just got a little bit of working out to do, nothing major. Same with that. I'll work out where I want that to be in the middle. Same with that. You can see that I'm using that as my guideline. And that piece there is a little bit big, so I can't see properly. So I'm just going to come back to that little piece of deli paper, which is my shortest piece, and that's what I'm going to use for my guide to cut my bottom piece. So I'm just going to, it's okay, you don't have to cut every single piece of paper at once. So now I can put that back on there and line the bottom of that one up with the piece I just cut. So I'm going to line it up, and now it matches the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my shortest piece of paper to be the guideline of where I cut my top off. So I'm just going to do that. If I wanted my papers here to be the same height as my signature, I would just put that on there, mark that there. I would cut it off there. But what I want to do is I want to cut it off with my shortest piece of paper, which is there. So I'm going to cut through a couple of passes at a time. Now I've got it level at the bottom and at the top, so I can do a test fit. You can see my signature cover is a little bit taller than my pages. I'm cool with that. I'm going to close that up. Just put a mark at the end of the signature cover, top and bottom like that. Open that back up. I'm going to grab that there and not let any of these pages move. Put them back on the table without letting any of them move. Holding it down, put my ruler on there. But I'm going to come back just a smidget so that it's not too long. Couple of passes. Don't try and cut through too much in one go. Get rid of your pencil lines. See how bringing it back just that tiny little bit, just got it away from the edge. Just enough that it's not going to come out and hang over. So that's 6 pages. We still need to adjust the Edith Holden page. I've left it till last because it's going to have a tuck spot on it. All right, so we bring that back. Take the pages out and put them inside. This is what I mean by don't move these pages around now. I'll show you what I mean. If I get this outside page and I put it in the middle, it's going to hang out. It's going to be longer than the first page now. So if you start changing things around, the pages will be at different lengths. So leave them where you put them once you've cut them out. So we pop that back in there, and I'm going to work out the width of that fold line there and there. I'm going to get my scoreboard out again. I'm going to find my pencil mark, and I'm going to come back just inside that pencil mark, and I'm going to score it. I'm not going to score right on the pencil mark. I'm going to score further in, because when it folds over, I don't want it to hang out over the signature. Okay, you see that? There's a pencil mark, but I've scored there. Right, so now I've folded over the back page of the Edith Holden. I'm going to bring the pages back and sit them there. When I close that up, my pages should tuck inside there. Shouldn't be able to see them. I'll put them back inside the signature cover, and I shouldn't be able to see that Edith Holden folded page from the back. Now all I've got to do is decide what to do with this front piece, and I'm going to cut it off. So I'm just going to make sure it's in there nice and tight. I'm just going to put a pencil mark there and a pencil mark there. Make sure that I have it in the right spot. I'm going to take those things out. Perfect. Open it up so that there's nothing behind it, and just cut that piece off. And that should all fit perfectly. If there is anything hanging out anywhere that needs to be adjusted, you just trim it up. Okay. So I like it cut at the front. You might have made the decision to fold it over and make a second tuck spot. There's nothing wrong with doing either, and the little bit of washi there works quite well. So when you put your washi down, just choose something that complements it. I'm not going to glue that down and turn it into a permanent tuck spot. I'm going to put a clip on it and maybe a tab or something. When I finish the book, I'll work out what I'm going to do with that. So whoever gets the book can decide what they want to do with it, and they still get to see and read this whole page. So that's the second signature. So I'll go ahead and make the third signature up off camera, and I'll show it to you when I've finished. Here's our third signature all done. I'm done with this one. I made the Edith Holden page. I put a new fold line here. So that let me use the whole page. So there's the old fold line. So I put a new fold line here to shorten the front. So it used to be here like that. So I've shortened the front. Then I made a longer fold at the back, and now it's a much shorter page. You never worry about things like that in junk journaling. We don't mind about things like that. So that goes inside the signature cover as the first page. So I'll show you a quick flip through of how I've made these pages. First page, Edith Holden. Tea-dyed with vellum. An exercise book page, very lightly tea-dyed. Another tea-dyed page. A recipe book page. A tea-dyed page. The other side, all the same. So I've kept this one pretty simple. Again, this is a base. We're learning how to do the base work to make a journal. I don't want to complicate things. Make it simple so that you know how to put a book together using a recycled cover. Once you get this down pat, you can go ahead and get as fancy as you like. There's our 3 signatures. They should fit in there nicely. Right, now just say you make your signatures up and it was just a little bit gaping too much. Say it was, you know, pulling it out too much here like that, and you wanted it like that. It was too fat. Just take 1 page out of each signature. Just bring it back a little bit. These Edith Holden pages have made this a little bit thicker, but it hasn't made it too thick for this size spine. It's worked quite well. What's that? What am I doing with the outside? What am I doing with the cover? You'll have to wait and see. We've just got to this stage for now. Be sure and tune in to part 4, where I show you how to sew the signatures into this cover. You'll be able to sew them in. We're going to sew them through this cover, and you will see the stitches on the outside. I'm Donna. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.